Hello everyone, Steve from Cantu Comics here. Today, I'm going to go over the Marvel Comics character Wendigo and show you some of his, key issues that I own. But first, let's crack open a beverage and homage to Wendigo. So right here, I've got the Maple Pecan Yeti from Great Divide. This is a perfect little pairing right here for this episode. So let me go ahead and crack it open, take a little swig. Oh man, that'll definitely put hair on your chest. Okay, so Wendigo is a result of an ancient curse from the wilderness in the Canadian wilds. So how it goes is if anyone is out in the wilderness and eats the flesh of another human, they get cursed with the Wendigo, which is a fur-covered, super ultimate powerful beast. So before I jump into Wendigo's origin story, I'd like to share with you his very first appearance. So right here, I have Incredible Hulk, number 162. Now this is CGC graded 9.0. This particular issue, I bought this personally at, it was like a sports collectible store in Atascadero, California. And this was a long time ago. I think I picked it up for like $20. At the time, I thought it was, near mint, which 9.0 it's pretty solid for, this is from the 70s, 1973. So this is a really, really nice book here. So Wendigo's story begins when three friends were hiking out in the Canadian wilderness, and they got a little lost and they came across a pack of wolves. At this point, they were all attacked and one of them was mortally wounded. Once they were able to fend off the wolves, they gathered themselves and went into a cave to kind of seek some shelter and kind of recover a little bit. So the man that was mortally wounded, he eventually succumbed to his wounds and died. The other two men that remained, their names were Paul Cartier and George Baptiste. So once they were stuck in this cave, Cartier was basically on the verge of insanity. And at that point, he was starving, didn't know what was going on. So he just had to eat the flesh. He became the Wendigo. So just magically, just poof, he just became this abomination of a Yeti. Hair just grew basically like a werewolf. He just became the Wendigo and just went nuts. So at this time, George Baptiste was able to escape and run away as the Wendigo went off into the woods. At the same time, Cartier's sister, Marie, she was out looking for him because, they were supposed to be hunting and come back pretty soon. And during this issue of 162 here, she came across the Hulk because he was wandering around, doing Hulk things, smashing up trees and everything. So she actually came to him and said, Hulk, please help me find my brother. So eventually Hulk is cruising around. He's like, oh, she's my friend. So I'm going to go help her. So he goes out there. Paul Cartier, he was kind of like sending some little mental, he was kind of talking to the Hulk mentally, kind of saying help. He can hear his screams for agony of help and everything. Although there wasn't anything verbally being said, but the Hulk can sense where he was and everything. So ultimately they did meet up and Cartier was on the verge of losing his complete consciousness and just the Wendigo taking over. So naturally they decide to start fighting. And that's what happens in this issue is this is their first battle and they're just going after each other, just trading blows back and forth. And ultimately Marie, that was kind of the last you see of her for a little bit, just Hulk was off trying to go fight him and everything. But as Hulk was fighting the Wendigo, George Baptiste was there because I guess the Wendigo caught up with him and had him kind of captured. He was just kind of there. So once Hulk kind of fought off Wendigo a little bit, he found George Baptiste there, kind of heard the story about what was going on. And then at that point, the issue kind of ended. The Wendigo just kind of disappeared, wandered off. And then, that's just kind of where that issue ended off. So in terms of an origin story, it's actually a pretty solid story. You also feel for the character and everything because, he is a human that's cursed and he's this just straight up abomination, much like Hulk. So the next time you see Wendigo, it's actually, a lot of people will know because this is when Wolverine first appears in comics. So there is a story arc between Incredible Hulk issues 180, 181, and 182. So for issues 180 and 181, those are highly sought after, very expensive. I missed my boat on trying to acquire those, but what I did get was issue 182, and I have it right here. So this is actually the original CGC slabs. So this is back when they were very strict, and this is a 9.2 right here. So with this, I could technically probably crack this, resubmit, and probably get like a 9.6, just because that's just how crazy like strict they were back then. Because when I look at this, it's actually immaculate. There's just a tiny little like piece of fuzz on that corner, and that's it. Like this is just a beautiful, beautiful book. So in this story arc, actually Baptiste and Marie, they get together, and Marie had been kind of dabbling in some of the like occult dark arts. So she had this plan to basically transfer the Wendigo from her brother to another host. So she basically targets Hulk. She's like, well, he's already this beast, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't really matter. He's already suffering. Just let him suffer some more. So pretty sinister at this point. So as Hulk is just bouncing around the Canadian wilderness again, he starts remembering, he's like, yeah, I remember this tree and this and that. And then all of a sudden, Marie tranquilizes him, puts him in a little trance, puts him to sleep, basically captures him and, ready to do the ritual. But as Hulk was asleep, he awoke. And at that time, the Wendigo had just appeared into the cave where she was going to do this ritual. So naturally, Hulk wakes up. He's like, what's going on? I thought you're my friend, this and that. And then Wendigo's there. And of course, they're going to fight. What else are they going to do? They're going to have an epic fight. So this is the same kind of trading blows happening. This is all throughout issue 180. And basically at the very, very end of this issue, all of a sudden you hear this voice. See, if you're a Wolverine fan, you can tell right away it's Wolverine. He pops up. He's like, hey, what's going on here? I'm going to fight both of you guys. So as they're fighting, you start to get a backstory on why Wolverine is actually there. So the Canadian government actually enlisted Wolverine. So obviously people know Wolverine's backstory with Weapon X and everything. So his first appearance is, he already has his adamantium claws and everything. So at this point, he's like a lapdog for the government. So they send him out to go fight Wendigo and Hulk, basically bring both of them in. So, they're going to town, they're fighting, very, very big epic three-way fight. So in the middle of it, Wolverine and the Hulk team up and they actually take out Wendigo together. As all of this is happening, Marie comes back. Basically, she subdues everyone again with her witchcraft, and then she begins the transfer. But as she's doing her ritual, Bruce Banner slowly is coming back from the Hulk. And what happens is Baptiste is there, and he sees the Hulk there and sees him in his human form, and basically his emotions take over. He's like, we cannot do this. This is immoral. We can't do this. This is a human being. So with this, he basically does the ultimate sacrifice, and he transfers the Wendigo to himself. So once that happens, he wanders off, and the story arc ends, and then it leads right into 182, where Wolverine just kind of bails. Helicopter comes, are like, we're taking you in, everything. So that's not the end of Wendigo. So the next big issue with him is actually Uncanny X-Men number 140. So in here, Wolverine is teamed up with Alpha Flight and Nightcrawler, basically to take down Wendigo. So they were searching for him. They were, with the Canadian government, because Alpha Flight is all through Canada. So they were enlisted to try and take care of him because he's just been a nuisance, murdering more and more people. So he had to be taken care of. So once found, obviously they're gonna fight. They're going back and forth. Nightcrawler's poofing back and forth. Wolverine's just trading blows with them, really trying to take him down. And it's really hard. The Wendigo he's a beast. He's really tough to take down. So Alpha Flight also jumped in. So Snowbird came in and helped subdue Wendigo with Wolverine's help. But she had to become a Wolverine herself to get very feral to take him down. So at that point, she was actually turning on Wolverine. Like, they had to kind of calm her down. It was just, she had to get so primal to take down Wendigo. It was just nuts. And while they're there, Shaman, as part of the Alpha Flight, he performs a ritual and he frees Baptiste from the Wendigo curse. And the curse is lifted at that point. So there's basically no more Wendigo, at least up to this point. So after this, Wendigo kind of doesn't make an appearance for a really long time. So the next big ones that I had noticed was actually in the 90s Spider-Man issues. So there's a Perception story arc. It's a 5-part story arc, which is Spider-Man number 8, and beautifully drawn by Todd McFarlane. You got the spider butt cheeks there on issue 8, very classic. And then issue number 9, which You got Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Wendigo in the background, just beautifully drawn. This is pre-Spawn, so this is, Todd McFarlane. His art's amazing, so very dark and sinister, very Spawn looking at this point. And then here, you've got the three again. I mean, I love the way Todd McFarlane draws Wolverine. It's amazing. And this story arc, it's, like I said, it's very dark because it's Todd McFarlane, so it just revolves around Wendigo murdering a whole bunch of children, and the city and the government's trying to step in, figure out. Wolverine steps in because he's familiar with the Wendigo and what happened with him. So he knows what's up, he knows how to track him and help. So the entire time, I mean, it's just very dark and gory. You got Wendigo literally just chomping on little children. Like it's pretty brutal. It's a very, very brutal run here. But that's the 90s Spider-Man. It was a very brutal take on Spider-Man. But that's not where Wendigo stops. So he also continues into Wolverine issues. I actually don't own any of those, but there are a bunch of like random Wolverine mini story arcs. So it starts at, I believe it's issue 129 and 130, and then issue 144, and then issue 171 and 172. Those are pretty good little epic battles between Wolverine and Wendigo. And again, I can't show you any personal copies, but my B-roll is going to cover a few of them right here. So aside from these comics, Wendigo has also appeared in video games. So the very, very iconic X-Men arcade game, he plays one of the bosses. Very, very tough boss, actually, especially that game is so well done. I mean, you literally can have 6 players that take him down. And you also see Wendigo in a bunch of other random little Marvel video games, like some of the little mobile, like free-to-play games. And I think it's some like X2, he appeared in there as well, even though he wasn't in the movie. He was in the video game adaptation. A lot of the Marvel television shows, like the little cartoons from the 90s, he appeared in a lot of those as well. So I think I'm not sure if it was a 90s X-Men run, but they had some series with like Wolverine and the X-Men and some of the other miscellaneous ones. So he made a lot of appearances there. Well, that wraps up this episode about the Wendigo. I hope you learned quite a bit about him. He's pretty underrated. Haven't seen him in the MCU yet, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna pop up somewhere because he has a lot of history with Wolverine and the Hulk. So if you're not subscribed and you'd like to see more content just like this video, make sure to subscribe below to be informed on the next time I drop a video. So in the meantime, this is Steve from Cantu Comics, signing off.